This could have very easily, in the hands of other people, they could have done things very differently with the Last of Us adaptation. So, briefly at the end here, with these 5 points, let's ponder, and please expand on this in the comments, what would the Season 1 Last of Us adaptation look like if it had been handled by Benioff and Weiss? The 5 points being you work with the creators of what's being adapted, you don't overuse zombies or action in general, cinematography, you get immersion through wide shots, you develop side characters, not just the ones who can win awards, and you're willing to retain morally ambiguous and controversial characters. Well, to start with, they would have never even tried to work with the creators of The Last of Us. They would have just moved things around to their liking, ignoring them. If they felt it was cool, they might have even had, like, we never would have gotten that answer that Ellie got her immunity because her mother was bitten while she was pregnant and can't transfer it to other people. They would have had her, like, giving someone a blood transfusion or something. And we at the very least, we wouldn't have gotten that explanation because they didn't ask. Second, you would have had infected battles every episode to the point it got boring, to the point it was laughable, that they're like gunning down half a dozen bloaters with little effort in a single episode. And even like by comparison, The Walking Dead lasted 11 years in the original show. And I admit it's a challenge to come up with new inventive takes on zombies in 11 years, but hey, when you get to season 10, you try to be inventive. But even then, like, the later seasons of Walking Dead shifted to humans who were the threat, or the Whisperers were actually an interesting new take on their humans who wear the skins of zombies to blend in among them, and humans leading hordes of zombies, directing them at their enemies. They didn't just rely on zombie action all the time, even they moved to other things, or purely in the capacity of the makeup department, they'd come up with variants on, well, these are zombies that are stuck in the sand, these are rotted zombies covered in moss, these are zombies that were soldiers, so they're covered in armor so you can't get headshots into them. They tried to vary it up. Any long running, as long as the dozen years they were on would have problems with that, but really imagine that they would probably put in more action scenes than were even in the video game to try to gloss over that their writing isn't that good. The particular thing is the cinematography would be nothing but close-ups of Ellie and Joel's faces, preferably with no dialogue. You wouldn't see these stunning immersive wide shots of the devastated post-apocalypse. You would not have developing side characters like Bill and Frank. Episode 3 would not have happened under their watch. Because it's all about Joel and Ellie with the camera pointed at their faces while they're gunning down lots of zombies infected. Even though, like, if it's just pointed at their faces, we can't really see them what they're shooting. Which is what the Season 8 battle turned into. If you look at it, it's just a close-up of Maisie Williams hacking things over and over again. And I think the most important, point 5, they would panic at the idea of, but we want to build up the Ellie and Joel as this personality cult around these actors. And we want them to be likable. And even though that Ellie is flawed because, well, she's grew up pretty rough, I understand why she's rough around the edges. If Benioff and Weiss had to handle the controversial defining ending of this game and show, they'd have made the Fireflies so irredeemably evil that Joel was blameless for killing them. Something like they wanted to kill her knowing that they would only make the cure for just themselves. Or they were trying to rape her first, or they had no intention of sharing with survivor enclaves, or they were going to proactively kill Joel ahead of time just for the evils. You know? That, as presented in the game and show, it's, no, they were going to make a cure and try to share it with the world. Because we don't need to be divided like this into survivor enclaves if the infected are gone. They would have changed it to something selfish on the part of the Fireflies and made Joel blameless for killing them. And they would have put so much... While Bella Ramsey is popular now, they are a big up-and-coming, well-nominated actor who is on Game of Thrones. We all love them. The thing is, and it was great seeing that interview between Bella Ramsey and Emma Darcy. That was nice. They're passing it on. But they would have tried to build up Bella Ramsey the way they built up Maisie Williams as a brand name, as this celebrity cult, and having her do cool little things, having her, Ellie, doing cool little things all the time, and snarky attempts at one-liners like I drink and I know things, and being cool and awesome, and not being a three-dimensional rounded character, but just being Little Miss Awesome all the time. Not morally gray, wiping out half a dozen bloaters with a well-placed Molotov cocktail or something. That is what you would have actually had. And I know people are going, oh, it would have been a bad final season. Oh, what specifically was bad about what Benioff and Weiss were doing? They were pandering actors with close-ups and were trying to just feed this personality cult of they have to be popular when it is controversial. I think that's going to hit the fan when season 2 comes and the consequences of the controversial thing Joel did come. Fans who put him on a pedestal will think why is this happening when it's kind of logical storytelling. I mean, you can agree with it, disagree with it, but it's not like it came out of nowhere. That the cycle of revenge that people come after them for what they did. And I'll leave it at that. And then they have to deal with that. That is, so just looking at this, thank you for going through this whole hour review if you're still here, but it was the show of the year, so I hope people actually stuck through this, and I made it a podcast so you wouldn't have to look at too many different slides. Just the circularness of that Craig Mazin is the person who told them when the pilot they screened for him was awful, and his one note was massive problem, underlined. And that this is another HBO show, which is an adaptation, which deals with zombie-like creatures, and it was done point by point, doing right what they did wrong. House of the Dragon has also, for the most part, managed to learn from this, but going ahead, what's the big show? That Benioff and Weiss are coming back with Three Body Problem in March, and not enough people really defined what they did wrong, because this was the perfect show, too big to fail. After season 8, all I saw was frustration, and they were not called out on what they did. Oh, we yelled in social media and stuff, but mainstream news didn't point out, this is not how basic cinematography works, this is not how screenwriting works, you are blatantly just pandering for awards to further your career. And you will see that in the upcoming Three Body Problem, which I also just made a series of videos about. And my hope is, after the combined 1-2 punch of we're getting Three Body Problem, then House of the Dragon 2, then like Last of Us next spring, I guess, there are some deep conversations hard conversations we're going to need to have here about accountability and what happened in the TV industry.